Hey everyone, for this ChangeNerd webcast, we are speaking to Karen Ferris. She's an educator, a consultant, and she works with organizations to help power people to take on constant change. Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with us today.
My pleasure, Brian. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're talking about moving from resistance to resilience, which is an awesome topic and I think is very timely. But before we get straight into the content, Karen, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So my career started off in IT service management for the audience that might know that, really about process improvement and the people side of change in technology. And then about 10 years ago, so I was always doing organizational change as a team lead, a manager, as a practitioner, but never really called it that.
Yeah.
And then about 2 years ago, I was an accidental author and I wrote my first book on organizational change, which balance, diversity, and portfolio approach to organizational change. And that really made me pivot into organizational change management as a new direction. But it wasn't really, as I say, a massive jump. I was already doing sort of people.
Yeah.
So it was a nice transition. And I'm still working in the IT service management industry. I was presenting at the national conference here in Australia in Brisbane last week about, and so my old industry, but I was talking about organizational change. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And loving what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. So what's the root cause of people resistance within organizations? I mean, we know we feel it, we experience it when we're on our projects and things, but what's the root cause of it?
I always say, Brian, that people generally don't resist change when it's done with them. They resist it when it's done to them.
I love it.
And I think that's the root cause. It's a lack of engagement. It's a lack of communication. And often organizations say, oh, well, we have communicated the change. Yeah. Like, in what way? Oh, well, we sent an email. And I'm like, well, that's communication, that's broadcasting. That's making announcements.
Yes.
So communication needs to be a dialogue. It needs to be two-way. And if people aren't being engaged and taken on the journey, I know that's cliche, but taken on the change journey, there's fear and uncertainty. We're all going to be subject to that. It's not people that are just being bloody minded and stubborn. There's a reason really for why they're resisting the change. So we need to engage people as early as possible. When we start talking about the need for a change, engage people at that point and bring them along, and they'll be on board.
Yeah, Karen, I love it. As you were speaking, a question came to mind. What would you recommend to leaders in how they take their people on a journey? What if they don't have all the answers? What would you recommend?
And that's a really good observation, Brian, because I see so many leaders that expect to have all the answers. They think that's what it means. As soon as they're given the title of a leader or a manager in an organization, they expect the answers. They don't have to. No one expects them to have all the answers.
Exactly.
They put that on themselves, and really they need to say, I don't have the answers, and let's go and find out the answer together. Let's go and ask the question of who's initiating the change, but make it a constant topic of communication and conversation, in team meetings, whatever. Keep talking about the change. And if you have an agenda for a team meeting, put it at the top. Because whatever you put at the top of an agenda says this is the most important thing we need to talk about. If it's at the bottom, it's, we'll get to it if we can. And if the change is at the bottom, it's sending a message that's not really important.
Yeah. I love that. Something that I started doing in my project meetings is in every single meeting, whether it's a status meeting or we're talking about something specific, we always, I highly suggest that we always put the business outcome that we're trying to drive towards, right? Like on one slide before we even start the meeting, so that we don't start veering off and everything. So I love that. It just supports the point that you just made. So how, from your perspective, how do you identify resistance and why should we think about it differently?
Yeah. So I think we identify resistance And as a result of things we've just talked about, it's people's behaviour, it's how they are speaking about a particular change. And to me, there's two types of resistance. There's covert resistance, which is the grumbling around the water cooler, which is generally because they are grumbling because they don't know stuff.
Yeah.
So rumour mill starts, and that can be really dangerous for those people trying to drive change. And rumour mills generally fill a vacuum. So let's not have a vacuum. Let's put it out there. What it's trying to do. And then overt resilience is really where people are openly challenging the reason we're doing something. And that can be good because they actually might be right. And I wrote an article way back that said, you know, resistance to change can be a good thing because it could be telling us that we're absolutely doing the wrong thing. If it's a critical mass saying we don't believe we're doing this. And a lot of the people that we are doing change with, you know, are in the best place to tell us whether it's the right or wrong thing to do. You know, the people that are closest to our consumers and customers. Mm-hmm. So it's really identifying it by listening to what people are saying, watching behaviours. But what I think we need to do differently, because if we are, as the change management professionals, expect to identify and manage and mitigate resistance to change, when change is constant and iterative, and we're not going to do it. So my take is that we need to move towards building resilience in the face of constant change in our workplace, rather than trying to manage resistance. Yes, we might have to do pockets of that, but I was talking to someone yesterday and I said, you know, we've all been changing and transforming and going through change since we were born, you know, going to school, going to university, our first jobs, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden we're in the workforce and we have to handhold people and treat them like children. These, you know, are intelligent people we're working with, and they're adults. And as long as we have the right conversations, they'll get it. So I think we need to give people the tools and resources to be resilient in the face of constant change.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Before we get into the superpowers, I want to get your perspective. When it's very easy to say, you know, building resilience. What's your recommendation or perspective? Who's fit to do that? Is it HR's responsibility? Is it us as OCM practitioners, or maybe a leader of a PMO? Who would you say should be accountable for trying to build resilience? Is it a leader? What's your perspective?
Yeah. The easy answer to that is everybody.
Everybody, yes.
So I am very, and I work with a lot of organisations to put in this structure in the organisation, and effectively where your organisational change management professionals become strategists, and they determine, so they're accountable, they determine how we're going to build resilience across the organisation, what tools people need, what resources, what training, etc.
Yeah.
Every organisation will be different, and there'll be cohorts that need different things. What we need then throughout the organisation at every level are real change agents or change advocates or change champions, whatever we want to call them. And organisations say, oh, we've done that. And actually all they've done is given people a lanyard that says change champion on it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they expect them to do something.
Yeah.
We need to transfer the skills that we as organisational change managers have to those people and enable them to be the foot soldiers, if you like, but at all levels of the organisation, from C-suite all the way down, to spot when people are suffering stress or anxiety because of the rate of change. So focusing on those people that need additional help to be resilient in the face of constant change. Because the organisational change professionals, the 2 or 3 people in the organisation generally can't do it all. They can't be everywhere.
No.
So the change agents need to be their eyes and ears across the organisation and can feed back and saying, you know, people aren't using those tools we're given, or they're not using those resources, or they love this, let's do more of that. Yeah. So that the OCM people can change the strategy and direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Karen, can you tell us a story behind the Superpowers? So you've identified these 20 wonderful superpowers that would enable resilience. What's the backdrop to that?
So I looked at, what does resilience in a person look like? And to me, a resilient person embraces change, say, bring it on.
Yeah.
They understand that there will be uncertainty. They're able to adapt. They're able to be flexible. They see change as a learning opportunity as opposed to a problem to be overcome. And they accept it as the reality. And when things don't go quite right, people say, bounce back. I think resilience is really about bouncing forward. Because if I keep bouncing back, eventually I'm going to stop. Because I'm not moving. I need to learn from the setback and bounce forward.
Yeah.
So I started looking at, so what are the sort of things tools, if you like, people need to be that person, to be resilient in the face of constant change. And I came up with, and it will be a book, probably published early next year. Awesome. The book is written, it's sitting on my desk. It's called Unleash the Regulator Within. So the Regulator is the owner of the superpowers. And the Regulator has 20 superpowers, which I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
So, there's 20 of them. And people so there's an interactive platform that I've built that organizations can host, and people can go in and out of this. It's an interactive PDF, in and out of this as often they put it on the device, 24/7, any device, anywhere, as and when they need it. Now, people don't need to have all 20 superpowers. They need to be aware of what they are, but when they're given a particular challenge or a problem to overcome, they can go in and out and pick one or two superpowers that will help them through that situation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So there's 5 superpowers that we're going to highlight today during this conversation. And the first one is the regulator. So can you walk us through the characteristics of the regulator?
Absolutely. So the regulator is all about stress tolerance and impulse control. And it's very much around what people will know as emotional intelligence.
Awesome.
The 2 aspects of emotional intelligence is self-awareness and then self-regulation. And we need to understand as individuals what triggers particular feelings and emotions in us, especially the negative ones. What really sets us on edge. And when we can identify those triggers and what makes us feel stressed and anxious, we can try and manage them. It could be a particular meeting. It could be a particular person. It could be a particular conversation, whatever it is. Once we identify those things that are causing us stress, we can then manage them. And it's the whole thing, if you don't know about it, you can't manage it. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
so it's about taking a step back and identifying what those triggers are. It could be a text message from a particular person. I've been victim of that. You go, what? Your stress levels and your anxiety go up, and then you just need to say, whoa, what's caused that, and take a step back. We all need to regulate how we're feeling at times to keep those stress levels down.
Yeah, I love that. And then the next one is the explorer. The explorer.
Yes.
What's that superpower all about?
The explorer is all about having resilience because you have a growth mindset. So Carol Dweck, people may know, wrote.
I love her work. Yes.
About the fixed mindset, where we believe what we've got is what we're given, and we can't. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The growth mindset, and I'm probably very oversimplifying it, but is saying, yes, I can learn, I can develop, I can overcome challenges, I can work out problems, I can do things. So we need to have a growth mindset, to explore new things. And also we need what's called grit. Angela Duckworth wrote the book called Grit, which is all about passion and perseverance. Be prepared to keep going and have a go, but also recognizing that where we do, as I've already mentioned, where we do have those setbacks, they're not failures.
Yeah.
They're opportunities to learn. Say, okay, we didn't get that, didn't go right. Why? What can we do better next time, and what have we learned from that?
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I love the quote that's cited from Edison, who said, let me get it right, I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work.
Exactly.
Something along those lines. But yeah, absolutely. It's not a failure. It's, yeah, that didn't work, the next one probably will.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then the listener.
Yeah, the listener is a big one, because the listener as a superpower underpins so many of the others. And you know, we sort of go, yeah, listening, communication skills, effective communication, and it's the biggest thing we get wrong. There's probably been more written about effective communication than anything else, and we're still not getting it right. And I think we forget to listen, and our default often for many people is when someone's talking to us, we react. We want to fill the silence, we want to fill the space, rather than think and then respond. So a considered response, which means we need to listen to what the person says. And there's the saying, isn't there? You know, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen twice as much as we talk. And effective listening is about listening to the person, but then clarifying or verifying what you've heard. So feeding it back to say, so Brian, I think what you've said to me is ABC. So you can say, well, actually, no, A and B is right, but no, that's not what I meant. So we actually need to understand each other much better. And listening, you know, underpins problem solving. It underpins collaboration. It underpins the empathizer, being able to empathize with other people. It's so important that we learn to listen properly and verify what we're hearing. Because if we are not hearing things correctly, then there's misassumptions that which cause, you know, stress and anxiety, because we're just not all on the same page. So
I love that. I love that, because listening is it's a core skill to really facilitating alignment between people, right? And so you have to have it. I love it. The collaborator.
So the collaborator is, and some people may have to say, already have these superpowers and collaborate really well, which is great. But often we're faced with a problem and we deep dive in to try and fix it, or a challenge we're trying to overcome, and we do it on our own, or we do it in silos in the organization. So the collaborator has a focus of working with other people and looking outside either themselves or their own team to look at cross-functional collaboration. So having a shared goal. So, you know, if it's a problem, then I don't have to solve it on my own and get stressed and anxious about not being able to do it. Reach out to other people. And one of the key things to collaboration, or the collaborator superpower, is getting that diversity of thinking. We often surround ourselves with people who think like us. Absolutely. It's our tendency. So we need to reach out to people who think very differently to us, who will challenge what we're thinking and the way we're going. So do that cross-functional collaboration, get different viewpoints, and work together towards a common goal, which could be, you know, a challenge to achieve or a problem to solve.
Awesome. And then the last one we're going to talk about, which I'm starting to notice more and more, is the power of reframing. So the superpowers is the reframer. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so when we're given a situation or we're put in a particular context, we see things through a particular frame. And if that's a negative frame, like I don't like what I'm seeing, that's going to cause stress and anxiety and concern. So that reduces your resilience. So what we need to do is take that frame and change it. So it's taking something through a different lens. And again, a lot of the superpowers take step back and either, you know, step back and listen, step back and self-observe, or step back and reframe the situation. How can I look at this differently? Can I see a positive angle to this rather than a negative angle? You could reframe it based on someone else's perception as well. How are they seeing this? What's the frame they are seeing something through that, and I'm not seeing it through the same one? So very important to Try and look at things through different ways. We often get very tunnel vision. We see it one way. It's very hard to unframe, sometimes. So yeah, we need to just try and adjust and see things positive angle if we can.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, so Karen, I'm going to post the infographic that you sent me with the 20 superpowers. I'll post that in the ChangeNerd community. But how are you? Again, you were talking about an interactive PDF. Is that a paid service? Is that a free service? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So it's a one-off. It's a perpetual license for organisations, and the pricing is based on the number of people who will in the organisation to have access to it.
Awesome.
The reason we built it as an interactive PDF as opposed to an app, because I get that question all the time, is that it's trying to get the perception that my behaviour is not being tracked. I know when I'm using an app that the data is being collected and analysed and whatever. And I don't know what it's like in the US, but there's still in Australia a stigma in terms of mental well-being in the workplace. And there's lots of campaigns and everything else, but the Australians, especially the male population, it's like, she'll be right, it's like, and they just, wave it away. So for somebody to say, I am feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxious, I need help, there's still a stigma in having that conversation, even though people are working to overcome that. Yeah. So in addition to the wellness programs and the employee assistance programs that are available to people, this platform, Interactive PDF, augments that. So when people go into, let's say, the Regulator, there's a description of what emotional intelligence is about.
Yeah.
It's about self-awareness and self-regulation. And then there's a set of actions people can take to learn that superpower, if you like. So, and they can put it on any device, iPad, laptop, phone, and use it as and when. Yeah.
Awesome. So Karen, as you were speaking, several people were sending things. I want to give them the opportunity to speak. Let's see. Sean, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure can. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I was interested in how you approached change fatigue as a common source of resistance. Are there, do some of the particular superpowers focus on that, or is it more of a system-wide challenge?
Yeah, very good question, Sean. One of the things that all the superpowers and the Regulator are about is trying to overcome that change fatigue. And I think change fatigue, we need to be aware of if that's the case and whether we do need to slow down. But sometimes it's not an option. So it's, what other ways can we share the load? How can we prioritize the changes that we're doing so we're looking after the well-being of our people? But all of the superpowers really are trying to, firstly, I think a lot of people also get change fatigue because they're still not accepting that change is constant. And for most organizations now, that's our new reality. And it's shifted, in my mind, it's shifted quite quickly from, episodic change, not a small change, but larger change, which was fairly episodic and, linear in nature, to change just being cyclic and constant and iterative. And we've had to do that because of the, disruption and the competition and the globalization and AI and machine learning and all that stuff is driving that. And we need to have those conversations with everyone in the organization to say, this is our new reality. We really care how you're going to get through that. And here's some tools and resources and support to try and avoid that fatigue. But we absolutely need to identify it if it's happening, because often we only realize when the person's burnt out and they're suddenly not at work anymore, which is far too late.
Yeah. I love it because, and again, I'll post the superpowers into the ChangeNerd community, but, if organizations were to focus on the superpowers, they almost serve as a leading indicator, right? To really helping employees deal with constant change. So let's see.
Yeah.
Daryl, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, awesome.
I can.
All right.
Good afternoon, Brian. And I believe it's good morning, Karen. Is it good morning or is it early afternoon?
It's early morning. Well, it's 8:25.
Thank you so much. Your insight and views are very much appreciated. As I was listening to some of your segment, I noticed that you had touched upon what I would consider to be the key risk and/or key risk resistance indicators. As a practitioner, can you give us a little bit more insight as to what you do in order to draw a baseline level of awareness for the organization's current state related to their key resistance factors? Do you use key factors to attribute to resistance? And if so, what do those look like?
Yeah, good question, Darren. I think if I've understood correctly. I mean, every organisation I go into is different. So there's no sort of baseline that we can say this is what it looks like or doesn't look like. To me, it's really listening to the sort of conversations that are taking place. But it's also about, as an individual going into an organisation, let's say of 5 or 10,000 people, I'm not going to be able to see where the resistance is coming from. So I need to leverage that change network that's in place, or leverage leadership in the organisation to say, these are the sort of signs you need to look for. Listen to what people are saying. Are they talking about the change? If they're talking about it, that's good, because that's the overt, resistance. They're exploring it. They're talking about it. They might be saying, "I'm not sure. I'm comfortable with it," but and that allows people to engage in the conversation. We also need to look for that covert, that grumbling. Because that's where the rumour mill starts, and so we definitely need to have conversations with those people and draw that out. And as we said at the beginning, it's about having that dialogue and hearing what people are saying. But we need to identify that resistance way up front. I was giving a presentation at a conference last week, and one of the questions from the audience was, well, what if we haven't told anyone about the change and we're about to do it to them? I was like, wow.
Got it.
I won't tell you. I won't say what I said. I said, yeah, aren't you? It's too late. It was a realization by the person in the audience that, oh dear, we've got a problem. And well, you have got a problem. So you need to backpedal as fast as you can and start having those conversations. You are going to be on the back foot. No way about it. You need to say, change your thinking about right up front and get people on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Daryl, thank you for that. So Karen, we are at the end of the webcast. Is there anything else that you want to highlight to the community? Anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to highlight during this time? I
think the biggest thing is and it's what I talk about in the book that's been published this year, called Get On, Change is Constant, is really building a proper, effective, efficient, educated, equipped change network across the organization. I see so many organizations, they hear that they have to do it, they do it half-heartedly. The people that they've engaged are probably not the right people. So when you put a call for change agents, tell them what the role really entails, because some people will go, I don't think I want to do that. So you get the right people, and then you put them in training. There's an organization here in Melbourne, Australia, who have adopted this model. They now have 70 change agents across the organization. Awesome. Who have all been through their Pro-C training, Pro-Sci, whichever way you want to say it. So they've invested, whether that's the right training or not is another conversation, but they've all been invested in education and training, which traditionally the 1 or 2 OCM people would have had in the organization. So they're really evolving organizational change competency throughout the organization, and that's what we need to do.
Yep, absolutely. Karen, thank you again for carving out time to have this conversation. And for those of you who want to call, thank you as well for taking time out of your schedule. So this concludes the webcast.
Thank you.